a lot to account for.
Luckily, I'm not wearing my camos today. I don't know if it's too soon to make a joke about it, but firstly, just in terms of the independent media question there you are. No, it's extremely concerning. In essence, it means that it's totally captured. That's what it comes down to, because it's the very highest echelons of the South African Police Service that form part of this. The fact that it was mentioned that dockets were allegedly removed from one point with a political instruction it's completely, totally and utterly wrong. I'll touch on the political instruction just now when I come back to the disbanding of the political killing task team. In terms of Dr. Guy Lamb's comment, there's quite a bit of truth in it, obviously. I mean, illicit firearms are, in my opinion, totally out of control. If you go and read the latest reports by the Global Initiative Against Transnational Organized Crime, you would note the last circular that I read, it was far over 3 million illicit firearms being circulated in the SADC region, which is remarkable. Now, obviously, dynamics in each country is different, so we can't compare it exactly with each other, but it gives you an idea of how big the problem is. I mean, if you look at the shooting that happened last week in Mitchell's Plain, the question keeps coming up, where do the firearms come from? And we very, very often see, and this leads to the question regarding police safeguarding of firearm, that unfortunately many of the firearms seized end up back on the street, and they end up seizing the same one again. Just a few months ago, there was a specific case of, I think it was Cape Town Flying Squad, but I don't have it in front of me now, where I think they seized a firearm somewhere in the Cape Flats that had previously been handed into a SAP 13 store at another station just a few months back. So no, that's also part, I think, of the integrity issue. I think what needs to be considered there as a potential solution in terms of firearm destruction, there's this whole the holy grail of we can't destroy it too soon because it needs to be linked to something. But, you know, in the majority of cases, many of these firearms that are seized aren't necessarily linked. So why are we storing firearms not linked to a case for longer than 5 or 10 years? And people can argue, yes, but whatever case comes in. But essentially, if you go and visit some of these stations, as we've done with Oversight, there are thousands upon thousands of firearms at certain stations. It poses major security risks. And you know, so I hope that colors in your question. Then the Eyewitness News question, the Brown Mkhwanazi affiliation or potential affiliation will definitely be part of the briefing with the committee. So there's no doubt that will happen. I went and watched the clips again after yesterday, and it's spot on. That's exactly what was said. There is no affiliation. So the minister would need to account for that. We need to have that discussion. And it's important to understand that if it were to be indicated that the minister or whoever else lied to Parliament, that's a criminal offence. And I think, you know, we're going to have a very uncomfortable discussion regarding that. Then just in terms of the committee meeting with the minister, absolutely. Regarding, and I'm going to link it to one of the other questions regarding who plays the oversight role, and I'll come back to it again. But that's one of the reasons we also wrote to the Speaker. The fact that, as one of the chairs also said, that the President is also involved brings a whole set of different dynamics or potential dynamics. So I actually think, and we'll wait for the feedback from the House chairperson as well as the Speaker, because there could be a broader parliamentary involvement than only the Portfolio Committee. The Select Committee, for example, can play a significant role. So there are quite a few remedies to our disposal. We should have an answer later today. As I said, we wrote last night. I know there were also letters sent this morning. So later today, we should have a more accurate answer. I'll come back to who presides over it just now. Then just in terms of the SABC question, should the minister be suspended? Well, let's look at it from a policing point of view. If a police member has in any way allegedly performed some kind of misconduct, there's usually suspension Many people always explain it as though it's punitive to that police member, but that's not the reasoning behind it. The reasoning is to protect the integrity of the institution, one, and two, of the investigation. Now, if any preliminary investigation indicates any form of political influence from anywhere in the ministry, suspension should be considered, and that is to protect the integrity of the institution and the integrity of the investigation, and that counts for everyone that is potentially implicated. It was then also bordering on lawlessness. That comment broke protocol. So this, to me, I believe in the rule of law, and I believe in due process needing to be followed. And I keep on going back and forth in my mind, because what yesterday showed me was a massive frustration with the fact that action is never taken or hardly ever taken. And my question is that if General Mkhwanazi simply went and opened a case, can any of us comfortably say that that would have been investigated? And unfortunately, I can't say that. Now, should we not follow due process or not allow the rule of law to prevail? No, we have to, because we've got to set a higher standard in how we conduct ourselves. But with the frustration with the criminal justice system, it really has become apparent that it seems that you have to every time kick up a fuss or fight for something to actually change. And that leads me to the question regarding the summoning the actual report mentioned by the PC. Absolutely. As much as we can possibly get our hands on, we will. Obviously, again, if something is sub judice, we don't want to influence the criminal procedure in any way. But in terms of us understanding the dynamics of this thing, we have to. It's a totally unprecedented moment. I don't know about you, but I've never seen something like this happen. And we'll have to do everything we can to understand every detail. I just want to jump to a question in terms of whose authority acted on the Newsroom Africa question, and then also the closing of the political killings task team. Under whose authority? According to me, he made it clear yesterday that the National Commissioner knew of the press conference that he was holding. So I understood that it would be under the authority. I don't know if he granted every single piece of what was said, but he knew there was a press conference. Where General Mkhwanazi, in my opinion, is 100% correct, is he does not answer to the minister in terms of the command structure. He answers to the National Commissioner. And I want to make this very, very clear, because over the years, we've seen politicians become generals and all sorts of very interesting appointments as national commissioners. And I think it's blurred the lines, where even after politicians that didn't come through the ranks remain generals, it creates confusion as to the actual command structure of the South African Police Service. No minister or political appointment in the ministry or any other political office for that matter has operational say over the South African Police Service. It's like me thinking that we're some kind of quasi police unit that can investigate certain matters. I can't. I don't have that authority. I'm not a police officer, and I'm not going to act like I'm one. So it's just important for me to actually underscore that in terms of the command structure, nothing that was said there is wrong in terms of him reporting to the National Commissioner. That is correct. That leads me to the question about the political killings task team. The instruction was given, you'd remember a few months ago, that it must be dismantled. There were several discussions about it. I know it was moved to the Deputy National Commissioner. We've all heard what was said. The explanation that was given to the Police Portfolio Committee was that why should we have a special task team while there are so many other different kinds of serious crime? Why is this special? Why can't it just be investigated as crime in general? That's one of the explanations that we got. Do I approve of it? I would like to first actually see the evidence of what General Mkhwanazi said yesterday about how well it performed. Now, when we previously asked the question, we saw a lot of explanation of how well they did perform and successes that they got. But at the same time, there are many people that spoke out about the abuse by that specific unit and things that they did wrong. To be honest with you, sometimes it feels like I'm watching tennis as the implications and allegations come in that I don't know who to believe anymore. So during this inquiry process, we would need to see what that evidence is to understand better about it. If I'm not mistaken, there's a specific murder sentencing happening today that was due to a case that was investigated by the political killings task team, and that person is being sentenced today, if I'm not mistaken. I'll check the detail shortly. The last 2 or 3 questions, in terms of, Jason, your question of the who runs the process, that's part of the advice that we will hopefully also get from Parliament. In terms of the committee, we will definitely engage in that discussion with the Minister and the said persons. There's no doubt that we will go ahead with that. And who would preside? Well, I think if there's a commission, an urgent commission or ad hoc commission of some kind, I think it would be important that it is an ex-judge or an independent individual of that kind that needs to preside over it. I know there was a meeting this morning with certain officials at Parliament. It was during this media briefing regarding certain processes and remedies to our disposal. So we'll communicate on that as soon as we can. To me, it is critical that we have an independent kind of authority or person that can preside over this process. I don't have the trust, unfortunately, that internally it will be done fairly and without interference. Then I think that's it. The firearms, I got it, unless there are more questions about it. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cameron. Members of the media, any other questions? Know that there's one question, which one? That was forwarded to me and is directed at the Honorable Chairperson of Correctional Services in the National Assembly. There have been repeated calls for amendments to parole legislation following instances of parolees who have been arrested for reoffending. Any plans to put pressure on the Minister to finalize this process immediately? That is one question. Zalin?
Hi, Moloto Zalin from SABC. I'd like to hear from Mr. Cameron. Did you reach out to the Minister yesterday? And do you think that there's reason for General Mkhwanazi to fear for his life?
Question, thank you. Any other question from the media? Okay, we will answer those questions and then we'll close the part on media engagement. Thank you very much. Maybe start with the Honorable Cameron.
So, no, I did not reach out to the Minister. I don't want any form of interference or premature discussion or anything like that. So, no, I have not. I know, and then just in terms of the second one, I think General Mkhwanazi is likely aware of any potential risk regarding what happened yesterday. I know he's got a very competent team from what I saw during our oversight a few months ago in KZN that also assist in the relevant protection. And I also think he is quite capable of also defending or looking after himself. One thing that I forgot to mention earlier was the question regarding the uniform, the camos and the balaclavas, the masks that they were wearing. All of the members standing there, from what I know, are Special Task Force members. So that is Special Task Force uniform. And the members in the blue uniforms were wearing National Intervention Unit, if I'm not mistaken, uniforms. In terms of his uniform, in terms of any form of regulation, there's nothing wrong with him wearing that. I understand the questions regarding optics, but he earned that uniform. And it's well known in police circles that once you've earned it, no one can take it away from you. And especially regarding the Special Task Force, I think it is an absolutely honorary position to be in, to be able to even get close to that uniform. So there was no, in my opinion, any transgression of any kind for the uniforms that were worn. I think the debate of what statement was being made by wearing certain uniforms would be a whole other debate. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable Cameron. Honorable Ramulobeng.
Thank you so much, Mr. Matapo, and for the questions. On, I think mine is one, I would equally would like to also, I think I forgot to also report on the medical parole outside of the parole process that I would have responded to a journalist that would have asked on the virtual platform. On the repeated calls for amendment on the parole, there is a process that the portfolio committee has entered into with the minister, and the minister would have also made calls to overhaul the whole parole system or process to check whether the current settings or setup are they yielding results as they should, and if they are not, how do we tighten that process? So there has been a meeting between the portfolio committee and the minister to talk to the parole system or to review it in that instance. And however, unfortunately, I was not around on that day when the portfolio committee had that meeting because I was on sick leave, but there was that indication, and based on the reports and the minutes, there is an agreement to review the process, especially towards 2025 in September, ultimately to 2027, to see if the current system of parole is yielding results, and if it is, if it's not, how do we remedy the situation? So there is pressure that the portfolio committee is putting to the minister, but however, equally, the minister has made that undertaking himself after he has inherited the bulk of profiles that he would have received. So this became a mutual undertaking between the portfolio committee and the minister in this instance. And based on the medical parole, which was the question that was asked, the medical parole for lifers between the 3rd of July 2024 to the 25th of July, which is 2025 this year. And this is for lifers. A total applications which were received were 16. And amongst those 16, only 3 were approved or considered. And 13 of those were not approved. And this is a consideration again that is before the minister. So the Medical Parole Board would make a recommendation, the same as the NCC in this instance, and submit their recommendation to the minister. Then the minister either approves or does not approve. So in this instance, for lifers, it was 13 and 3 of those have been approved. And medical parole for those who are not serving as lifers, which are offenders, the 1st of April 2024 to the 31st March 2025, a total of 29 medical parole applications were received, which were done by the Correctional Supervision and Parole Board, and 29 of those which were received, 23 were approved, which 6 were not approved. So I think for much more detailed report for those who would require it, we can provide that. Raja would assist in providing that detailed report, which I was reading, or you can seek that through also the office of the minister. I think they would have much more detailed one because they would be receiving them from time to time from the medical board, parole board, equally from the NCC. So those were the questions. There's the medical aid one, Mr. Matapo. It was the one that I didn't answer the first time on the first set of questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairpersons and members of the media for the questions and for comprehensive responses. So this brings to a close